Welcome to this explainer. Whenever we talk about sustainability, it's really easy for the mainstream to just picture planting a bunch of trees, protecting the oceans, or maybe just waiting around for some sweeping government policy to save the day. But for those of us actually tracking the markets, the reality is that true sustainability is deeply, irreversibly intertwined with the global economy. What we are witnessing right now isn't just some passing trend or a nice-to-have corporate social responsibility initiative. It is, without a doubt, the most massive economic redesign of our time. We're talking about tens of trillions of dollars in capital being rapidly reallocated. So today, we're going to explore the absolutely critical role of business, finance, and innovative economic models in achieving a truly sustainable future.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap. We'll start with the new business blueprint. Then we'll enter the circular economy, take a hard look at financing the green transition, and finally, we'll bridge global goals with local realities.
Section 1. The New Business Blueprint. We're looking at overhauling compliance.
Right now, modern companies are fundamentally redesigning their entire approach around what's known as the triple bottom line. Now, we all know the core concept here, right? It's about balancing economic viability with positive impacts on people and the planet. But the real friction happening in boardrooms today isn't about understanding that concept. It's about how to actually measure it. For generations, legacy businesses have relied on incredibly precise, standardized financial metrics to measure their profit. But how do you accurately and universally quantify something like social equity? Investors are no longer accepting those vague, fluffy promises in annual reports. They are actively demanding hard, auditable proof of these people and planet metrics. And this is literally forcing massive legacy institutions to invent entirely new accounting methods on the fly, as they struggle to attach hard numbers to historically qualitative impacts.
In actually executing this shift, well, it means sustainability absolutely cannot just be an isolated, siloed department down the hall anymore. It requires top-level governance setting a non-negotiable direction, which naturally forces global strategies to align across every single business unit. When leadership essentially bakes these metrics into the core strategy, it actively trickles down into hiring practices. It fundamentally changes who the company recruits, bringing in highly purpose-driven talent. And ultimately, this completely reshapes the daily culture of the entire organization. It transforms sustainability from this top-down corporate mandate into a completely organic, company-wide operational standard. Moving on to Section 2. Enter the circular economy and some truly visionary solutions. And this brilliantly illustrates the core problem we're facing. We are rapidly hitting the physical limits of the old linear economy. The traditional take, make, dispose model simply cannot scale with continuous global population growth and rising middle-class consumption. The math just doesn't work anymore. We can't keep relying on endless resource extraction and endless waste generation. The only mathematically and economically viable alternative moving forward is the circular economy. It's a closed loop, designed from the ground up to keep raw resources in constant circulation and basically eliminate the whole concept of waste entirely. This continuous loop shifts the massive burden of waste entirely onto the engineering phase. Think of it as a life cycle story. Products are intentionally designed from day one to outlive their first user. They're manufactured and used, sure, but when they break, they are engineered to be repaired easily. When the original user is totally done with it, the item can be seamlessly reused by a secondary market. And at the absolute end of its functional life, the components are easily separated and recycled into entirely new products. We are effectively designing the waste out of the system before the product even rolls off the assembly line.
A foundational concept making this mainstream is cradle to cradle, which relies on this really powerful analogy, treating all materials as nutrients. So materials are either biological nutrients, meaning they're fully compostable and can safely return right back to the earth, or they are technical nutrients. And these technical nutrients are the absolute game changers for high-tech industries because they can be continuously reused without ever losing their quality. Take a modular smartphone, for example. Instead of throwing away the entire device when the battery dies or the camera gets outdated, a truly circular technical nutrient model allows you to simply snap out the old camera module and snap in a new one. The manufacturer takes back that old module, breaks it down into pure technical nutrients, things like gold, cobalt, and rare earth metals, and uses them to build the next generation of components. Every single thing is nourishment for the next cycle, with absolutely no toxic leakage.
Section 3. Financing the green transition. Let's look at the financial engine. So, the crucial point here is that finance is the ultimate bottleneck. We are rapidly moving from the carrot to the stick when it comes to securing green finance. Just a few years ago, getting a green loan might offer a nice, incentivizing reduction in interest rates, a little carrot for forward thinking businesses. But today, the new baseline is pure survival. The trajectory is moving so incredibly fast that strict, verifiable environmental standards will very soon be an absolute non-negotiable requirement. In the very near future, if a massive infrastructure or corporate project isn't certifiably green, it simply won't get financed at all. The capital taps will just be turned off. But actually securing that green finance, right now, it is a logistical nightmare. Companies are facing this chaotic, tangled web of verification challenges. First, there's a glaring lack of consistent global standards. Differing bank requirements mean what counts as sustainable for a lender in New York might not even satisfy a lender in Tokyo. Add in all the regional regulatory variations and multiple overlapping reporting frameworks, and the consequences get pretty severe. We are actually seeing lean, innovative sustainability teams being forced to transform into massive, bureaucratic compliance departments. Instead of spending their capital and brainpower on developing real green innovations, they're draining resources just trying to satisfy overlapping European and US frameworks, untangling this complex web simply to prove their green credentials and keep their funding alive. Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, Global Goals, Local Realities. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing what happens when the rubber meets the road. There is immense friction between headquarters and local branches. Top-down global ambitions inevitably crash into local contexts. You have these overarching sustainability strategies that get designed in a corporate vacuum. But the moment you actually try to deploy them, they hit the reality of cultural adaptation and localized regulatory compliance hurdles. You absolutely cannot force a one-size-fits-all strategy globally. Local markets desperately need the autonomy and flexibility to adapt these mandates to their specific cultural realities. And even more importantly, global teams must back them up with actual financial and resource support rather than just sitting back and demanding arbitrary metrics from afar. So how do local teams successfully navigate these massive hurdles on the ground? Well, by leaning heavily on the power of peer networks. Consider how Australian businesses actually managed to localize these huge global sustainability mandates. They found incredible success by modeling their strategies after Canadian markets. Now, geographically, they're on exact opposite sides of the planet, but strategically, they matched perfectly. Both are vast, geographically spread out nations with economies that are heavily reliant on resource extraction and mining. They share incredibly similar regulatory and cultural frameworks when it comes to balancing heavy industry with environmental conservation. This kind of cross-border knowledge sharing, finding a peer with the exact same structural economic challenges, is absolutely invaluable for teams trying to execute complex global policies in the real world. So what does this all mean? All of this brings us to one final pivotal thought. How can businesses and financial institutions truly drive the systemic change needed for a sustainable future? As we've seen throughout this explainer, transitioning to a green economy demands incredible innovation, brutal financial transparency, and a fundamental rethink of exactly how we create, use, and value our raw resources. It is both the ultimate challenge and, honestly, the greatest wealth creation opportunity of our lifetime. I'm going to leave you with that question to ponder as you look at your own industry's role in the green transition. Thank you so much for joining me.